October of 1942 found the General Motors Inland Division in Dayton, Ohio, as the focal point of an immense national challenge. There, George Hyde, a 52-year-old German immigrant engineer, grappled with seemingly insurmountable directives that landed on his drafting table. The Thompson submachine gun, the quintessential American combat firearm, its image etched into the nation's consciousness, presented an untenable financial burden. Its individual cost stood at a prohibitive $200 per unit, an amount equivalent to more than $10,000 in contemporary currency, far exceeding a quarter of a year's wages for an average enlisted soldier. As millions of combatants were being deployed across two vast global arenas, the financial implications were stark and uncompromising. At this exorbitant price point, the nation found itself in an untenable position, unable to adequately equip its burgeoning military forces. Colonel René Studler's assignment to Hyde was unequivocal yet incredibly demanding. Conceptualize and engineer a submachine gun capable of matching the Thompson's performance characteristics, but at a staggering 90% reduction in production expenditure. A mere 7-month window was allotted to Hyde, a brutally tight deadline prior to the anticipated major offensives, where American troops were slated to land in Sicily and Italy. These crucial operations would critically depend on a volume of armaments that current manufacturing capabilities were woefully insufficient to provide, creating an urgent strategic imperative. Hyde's initial prototype, designated the T-15, initially appeared to hold great promise, a perception that dramatically shifted upon its formal unveiling to the scrutinizing eyes of Aberdeen Proving Ground. This contraption bears an uncanny resemblance to a discard from a Buick automotive production line, a particularly caustic ordnance officer disparagingly remarked. He continued, "Where is the meticulous artistry? Where is the distinguished wooden furniture, the hallmark of a true firearm?" While the military had explicitly requested an economical solution, an underlying expectation persisted for an aesthetically conventional weapon, one that visually aligned with established notions of a combat rifle. What ultimately materialized, however, would later earn the unenviable moniker of the most aesthetically unpleasing firearm in American military annals. Yet, amidst the harrowing quagmires of Italy and the brutal, ice-bound landscapes of Korea, frontline soldiers would come to grasp a profound and often brutal reality concerning the intimate interplay between outward appearance and the stark necessities of battlefield efficacy and sheer survival. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The crisp dawn of October 15, 1942, illuminated George Hyde, his figure stooped intently over his drafting table within the stark, fluorescent illuminated engineering department of General Motors' Inland Division facility, located in Dayton, Ohio. Then 52 years of age, this German-born émigré possessed a formidable 2-decade career dedicated to the intricate art of firearm design. Yet even his extensive experience offered no precedent for the contents of the manila folder, which Colonel René Studler had presented to him just 72 hours prior. The detailed requirements outlined within seemed to defy the very laws of arithmetic, presented in an almost impenetrable bureaucratic lexicon. The Thompson M1928A1 submachine gun, a formidable instrument of war that had cemented its status as the very emblem of American offensive capability. Its legend spanning from the gritty thoroughfares of Chicago to the blood-soaked shores of Guadalcanal bore an acquisition cost so exorbitant it elicited visible discomfort from even the most seasoned Pentagon financial strategists. A single unit commanded $200 back in 1939. Hyde, meticulously recalculating the figures multiple times in a desperate search for a computational error, confirmed its contemporary equivalent, a staggering $10,500 in today's economic terms. This sum represented over 4 months of an enlisted private first class's fundamental salary. Even the streamlined M1 Thompson, hastily introduced following the attack on Pearl Harbor, maintained a price point of $70, a negligible reduction when juxtaposed against the colossal demands of a worldwide conflict. The financial equation presented an unyielding and grim reality. The United States faced the monumental task of outfitting millions of servicemen for concurrent military operations across the European and Pacific theaters. Considering the $200 per unit cost, merely furnishing 1 million soldiers would incur an expenditure of $200 million. This figure alone represented almost 10% of the nation's total defense allocation, and that was prior to factoring in the vast expenses associated with ammunition procurement, troop training, and the intricate web of logistical support. The Treasury Department had unequivocally communicated its stance. The Thompson submachine gun, by virtue of its excessive cost, was effectively disqualifying itself from widespread integration into American military stockpiles. Colonel Studler's directive resonated within Hyde's intellect, an almost insurmountable challenge that seemed to defy the very principles of engineering and economic viability, akin to a direct affront to the laws of physics. His mission, to conceive a submachine gun that mirrored the operational effectiveness of the Thompson, yet could be mass-produced at a staggering 90% reduction in cost. The technical criteria were stringent: an entirely metallic construction chambered for 45 caliber ACP ammunition, a cyclic rate of fire below 500 rounds per minute, and a demanding 90% accuracy at a distance of 50 yards, meaning 9 out of every 10 projectiles needed to impact within a 6 by 6 foot target zone. Perhaps the most pivotal stipulation was that the weapon's fabrication had to leverage existing automotive manufacturing methodologies, requiring only negligible machining processes, a demand that elicited outright derision from conventional firearm manufacturers and considerable apprehension from even experienced automotive engineers. The allotted time frame was even more unforgiving than the technical specifications themselves, a mere 7 months. Hyde's countdown stood at precisely 30 weeks, until American military contingents would require enormous stockpiles of submachine guns for the imminent, strategically vital invasions of Sicily and Italy. Crucial intelligence assessments indicated that both German and Italian defensive forces were diligently fortifying their positions, anticipating a protracted and brutal engagement characterized by intense, close-quarters combat. Each passing day, that American industrial facilities failed to churn out sufficient volumes of cost-effective submachine guns represented a critical vulnerability, increasing the likelihood that American GIs might confront entrenched enemy strongholds equipped with expensive yet largely unavailable weaponry, arms that resided more as entries in procurement ledgers than as tangible assets in the hands of fighting men. Hyde's initial strategic inclination was to capitalize on his team's recent, groundbreaking expertise in unconventional manufacturing methods. The General Motors Inland Division had only recently, triumphantly concluded one of the most daring and innovative production feats of the entire war: the fabrication of 1 million single-shot Liberator pistols destined for the clandestine hands of European resistance movements. These rudimentary yet entirely operational firearms had been constructed exclusively from stamped metal parts, utilizing standard automotive press tools and advanced spot welding procedures. The logical deduction was clear. If the division could successfully mass-produce pistols with the efficiency of automotive components, then these identical manufacturing tenets could potentially be scaled up to the production of submachine guns. The inaugural prototype, officially designated the T-15, materialized from Hyde's meticulous blueprints as a profoundly revolutionary departure from conventional firearm engineering. In stark contrast to the Thompson's elegant composition of precisely machined steel and lustrous, polished walnut, the T-15 was comprised entirely of stamped and welded steel sheets, meticulously formed into a highly functional, albeit unequivocally utilitarian, assembly. Its telescopic wire stock, a practical innovation, could be adjusted, retracting from a full extension of 8 inches to a more compact 22. 8 inches. The receiver, or main body, bore a striking visual resemblance to a pair of automotive fender components fused together, a perception that was, from an engineering standpoint, entirely accurate. Initial evaluations conducted at General Motors' dedicated proving grounds yielded exceptionally encouraging results. The T-15 demonstrated consistent accuracy, exhibited impeccable cycling reliability, and could be field stripped for maintenance and cleaning in less than 30 seconds. Crucially, preliminary financial projections indicated a manufacturing cost of less than $25 per unit, precisely achieving the ambitious 90% cost reduction that Colonel Studler had stipulated. A flicker of guarded optimism was permitted to ignite within Hyde as he commenced preparations for the imminent formal presentation at the esteemed Aberdeen Proving Ground. The journey to Aberdeen, that November day, was imbued with the profound significance of America's industrial prowess and its capacity to rearm itself for global conflict. Hyde keenly recognized that his innovative prototype transcended mere fiscal economy. It encapsulated a pivotal inquiry into the very essence of American military ethos and identity. The critical question loomed: would the armed forces wholeheartedly adopt a philosophy of radical efficiency and pragmatic utility, or would deeply entrenched institutional conservatism insist upon weaponry that conformed to traditional aesthetic norms, irrespective of crucial practical and operational advantages? The verdict was delivered with immediate and unsparing severity. The assembled ordnance officers at Aberdeen interacted with the T-15 prototype with thinly veiled contempt, their countenances transitioning from initial intrigue to profound disillusionment, culminating in unequivocal repudiation. Major William Harrison, serving as Aberdeen's principal evaluator for small arms, disdainfully commented, "It appears to be an accidental byproduct from a Buick automobile production line." He continued, his tone dripping with scorn, "Where is the artisanal precision? Where are the finely crafted wooden components? This object more closely resembles a rudimentary workshop implement than an actual instrument of combat." The institutional bias against Hyde's design transcended mere superficial aesthetics. For a considerable duration, the prevailing ethos within American military culture had intrinsically linked the perceived quality of a weapon with time-honored craftsmanship. Meticulously machined steel components, precisely fitted wooden stocks, and highly polished surfaces that unequivocally conveyed the impression of diligent hand finishing. The Thompson's distinctive silhouette, complete with its iconic drum magazine, and the Thompson Auto Ordnance Company's unwavering commitment to intricate detailing, had become inextricably woven into the fabric of American military identity. Consequently, senior officers who had personally wielded Thompsons amidst the brutal trench warfare of France during the Great War regarded Hyde's innovative stamped metal creation as nothing short of an affront to cherished military traditions and established heritage. Hyde observed with profound dismay as his meticulous months of dedicated labor were summarily dismissed within minutes of a cursory and indifferent evaluation. While the Army had explicitly articulated a requirement for cost-effective manufacturing processes, their palpable reaction starkly exposed an inherent paradox at the very core of military procurement. They desired significant cost reductions without any corresponding visual compromise. Despite the T-15's operational performance unequivocally meeting every single technical specification laid out, its unconventional appearance flagrantly violated unspoken, deeply ingrained assumptions about the quintessential visual characteristics an American weapon ought to possess. The protracted journey back to Dayton unfolded through a frigid November night, punctuated by unsettling intelligence filtering in from North Africa concerning the Thompsons' alarming reliability issues when exposed to the abrasive desert sands and the debilitating humidity of jungle environments. A profound sense of irony compounded Hyde's disappointment as he gradually recognized that the aesthetically pleasing firearm, so lauded for its looks, was already faltering precisely when its dependable performance was most critically needed. All while the Army's high-ranking brass remained stubbornly fixated on preserving its perceived aesthetic legacy. Each passing day that production lines struggled relentlessly to meet the allocated Thompson quotas represented another day that American soldiers on the front lines might tragically face acute combat shortages of essential close-quarters weaponry. As the familiar silhouette of GM's Inland Division emerged into view under Dayton's flickering streetlights, Hyde confronted a momentous choice, one that would irrevocably shape both his personal legacy and the future direction of American small arms doctrine. He could either undertake a complete redesign of his weapon to placate the entrenched military traditionalists, or he could resolutely commit to providing American soldiers with the indispensable tools they required for survival, irrespective of institutional preferences or biases. The Thompson's inherent beauty, it became clear, was proving as lethal to its efficacy as enemy fire, and Hyde, in his hands, held the definitive blueprint for its uncomely yet undeniably effective replacement. Please stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Hyde returned to his drafting table imbued with a revolutionary insight that was poised to fundamentally reshape American small arms doctrine. The provocative notion that utilitarian homeliness might in fact signify superior performance. While the Aberdeen dismissal had undoubtedly stung, it had simultaneously illuminated a core, undeniable principle of military acquisition, a truth Hyde's analytical engineering intellect was now perfectly prepared to leverage. The armed forces' deeply ingrained aesthetic prejudices were effectively blinding them to the undeniable reality of functional superiority. If he found himself unable to imbue his weapon with a conventionally traditional appearance, he would ensure its operational efficacy was so overwhelmingly and demonstrably potent that its visual characteristics would become entirely irrelevant. Working in close collaboration with Frederick Sampson, a pivotal figure at General Motors, renowned as its chief engineer and an undisputed master of large-scale automotive mass production, Hyde embarked upon a methodical deconstruction of everything the military had traditionally considered essential in submachine gun design. Sampson contributed 3 decades of invaluable experience in transforming raw steel into highly reliable automotive components, instilling in him an intuitive, visceral understanding that true elegance in manufacturing inherently meant the ruthless elimination of every element that did not directly contribute to the core function. Where conventional firearms manufacturers prized meticulous craftsmanship as an end in itself, Sampson identified areas of inherent inefficiency and unnecessary complexity. The new prototype, officially designated T-20, materialized from their joint efforts as an even more profound and radical departure from established military convention. Hyde systematically stripped away every single element that existed purely for ornamental purposes, retaining solely those components that directly and unequivocally enhanced battlefield effectiveness. The resulting implement, while appearing crude and unrefined by traditional aesthetic standards, nevertheless represented an absolute masterpiece of pragmatic, functional engineering. It would soon earn the iconic moniker that would forever define its legacy: the grease gun, a nickname derived from its striking visual similarity to a ubiquitous automotive maintenance tool. The receiver design in particular served as a quintessential illustration of Hyde's groundbreaking philosophical shift. In stark contrast to machining a solid steel block, the Thompson's intricate approach that necessitated highly skilled machinists and expensive specialized equipment, the T-20 ingeniously employed 2 pressed steel halves forming a clamshell structure, meticulously welded together along their seams. Each individual receiver half could be rapidly stamped from sheet steel in mere seconds, utilizing existing automotive press tools, which were readily available. The welding process itself, having been perfected through its extensive application in automobile body fabrication, produced connections that were demonstrably stronger than those achieved by traditional methods, while simultaneously obviating countless hours of careful fitting and meticulous finishing. The total manufacturing cost for this revolutionary receiver assembly was a mere $2. $50, a dramatically lower figure compared to the $15 required for the Thompson's painstakingly machined equivalent. The stock represented yet another triumphant demonstration of prioritizing utility over aesthetics, where the Thompson featured a carefully fitted walnut stock, a component that demanded seasoned wood, precise machining, and meticulous hand finishing. The T-20 incorporated an innovative telescoping wireframe. This ingenious design could retract from an extended length of 29.8 inches to a remarkably compact 22.8 inches. This design not only eliminated the necessity for expensive raw materials, but also concurrently offered significantly superior portability, a crucial advantage for specialized personnel, such as tank crews and paratroopers, who frequently operated in highly confined spaces. The manufacturing cost for this functional innovation was an astonishing 30 cents per unit, in stark contrast to the $8 expenditure for the Thompson's traditional wooden stocks. Hyde's most contentious advancement proved to be the dust cover safety system, a design that superseded the Thompson's intricate array of mechanical safeties, with a mechanism characterized by its elegant straightforwardness. Its operation was remarkably simple. Flipping the cover open indicated the weapon was ready to fire, while closing it engaged the safety. This ingenious mechanism served a dual purpose. It effectively safeguarded the weapon's internal components from environmental ingress and ensured an absolutely foolproof operation that could not be accidentally disengaged, even under the most intense combat stress. While conventional ordnance specialists viewed this as an unsophisticated oversimplification, Hyde profoundly understood that supreme combat functionality held undeniable precedence over complex mechanical refinement. The bolt's engineering profoundly showcased Hyde's deepest comprehension of the practical requirements of infantry warfare. The T-20's substantial bolt operated at a cyclic rate of 450 rounds per minute, a significant reduction compared to the Thompson's rate of over 700 rounds per minute. While military traditionalists erroneously interpreted this as a deficit in performance, Hyde's meticulous analysis of post-engagement reports from North Africa and the Pacific Theater had uncovered a vital, often overlooked truth. Lower cyclic rates facilitated more efficient ammunition expenditure and offered dramatically enhanced manageability during prolonged bursts of fire. It became evident that American troops were inadvertently squandering Thompson ammunition due to excessively high cyclic rates, which regrettably rendered precise aiming almost unattainable. The enclosed action represented perhaps Hyde's most prescient and visionary design breakthrough. Unlike the Thompson's exposed operational mechanism, the T-20's bolt and its associated springs remained completely encapsulated within the receiver. This containment effectively prevented the ingress of environmental contaminants, such as dirt, mud, sand, and moisture, persistent and formidable adversaries for ground troops, thereby averting operational stoppages and malfunctions. This single pivotal design choice would ultimately prove decisive in ensuring the weapon's reliability across diverse and challenging terrains, from the rugged Italian mountain passes to the dense, unforgiving Pacific jungle battlefields. When the T-20 underwent rigorous evaluations at Aberdeen Proving Ground in December of 1942, the empirical performance data unequivocally narrated a tale that transcended any preconceived aesthetic biases. During meticulously controlled mud tests, specifically engineered to replicate the arduous conditions of infantry combat, the venerable Thompson submachine gun consistently experienced malfunctions after discharging merely 50 rounds, necessitating immediate field maintenance to restore its operational capacity. In stark contrast, the T-20 flawlessly discharged 200 rounds without a single operational interruption, its cleverly enclosed action proving utterly impervious to the environmental adversities that routinely crippled conventional firearm designs. Further investigative sand testing unveiled even more pronounced disparities in performance. The Thompson, when operated in simulated arid desert conditions, demanded cleaning after every 100 rounds fired, a requirement that disturbingly mirrored actual field reports from the North African campaigns, where American military personnel grappled with persistent weapon reliability issues in those unforgiving environments. Astonishingly, the T-20 continued to function without any maintenance for an impressive 500 rounds. Its inherently simple blowback action and fully encased mechanism unequivocally demonstrating their superiority over the Thompson's more intricate, yet regrettably vulnerable, design. The ultimate validation of Hyde's innovative engineering philosophy arrived with the cold weather assessments. Under frigid temperatures meticulously calibrated to mimic the brutal European winter conditions, the Thompson's intricate array of springs and complex operational mechanisms began to falter, primarily due to the thickening of its lubricants and the contraction of its metallic components. Conversely, the T-20, characterized by its significantly fewer moving parts and its streamlined, simplified mechanism, persevered, continuing to operate with unwavering dependability. This robust performance eerily foreshadowed its eventual crucial success during the pivotal Battle of the Bulge. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The statistical evidence regarding reliability was nothing short of overwhelming. Across the full spectrum of environmental testing conditions, the T-20 proudly boasted an exceptional 99.7% function rate, a figure that dramatically eclipsed the Thompson's 86. 3% under precisely identical operational parameters. This ugly gun was not merely a more economical alternative, it was demonstrably and significantly more dependable during moments when the very lives of American soldiers hinged critically upon the flawless operation of their weaponry. On the auspicious date of Christmas Eve, 1942, the esteemed Ordnance Department formally issued its recommendation for the official adoption of Hyde's T-20, designating it as the United States submachine gun, caliber 45 M3. The comprehensive cost analysis unequivocally affirmed every facet of Hyde's unconventional and groundbreaking methodology. The basic firearm itself, priced at $18. $36, complemented by an additional $2. $58 for the bolt assembly, culminating in a total manufacturing expenditure of just $20. $94. This represented less than half the cost of the simplified Thompson, all while exhibiting unparalleled reliability across every conceivable performance metric. This pivotal recommendation transcended mere fiscal prudence. It heralded a profound paradigm shift within American military strategizing, moving decisively away from an ingrained aesthetic traditionalism towards a more pragmatic and functional orientation. Hyde's unadorned weapon had definitively proven that sheer effectiveness, rather than superficial elegance, ought to be the paramount determinant in the selection of armaments. The lingering question, however, remained whether American servicemen would willingly embrace a weapon that bore a striking resemblance to a common automotive tool, yet delivered the performance of the most unfailingly reliable submachine gun ever conceived. The General Motors Guide Lamp Division, situated in Anderson, Indiana, had dedicated the preceding decade to perfecting the intricate art of manufacturing automobile headlights, its expansive factory floor resonating with the meticulously synchronized rhythm of automotive mass production. By January of 1943, that very same industrial expanse was undergoing the most breathtaking industrial metamorphosis in the company's storied history, as highly skilled engineers painstakingly retooled and reconfigured assembly lines to commence the production of instruments of war. This dramatic transition from the creation of illumination devices to the fabrication of armaments would serve as irrefutable proof that American manufacturing ingenuity possessed an astonishing capacity for rapid adaptation, when the very survival of the nation teetered precariously in the balance. The M3's innovative design embodied a true manufacturing revolution, serving to validate every single principle that Frederick Sampson had meticulously acquired during his 3 decades immersed in the dynamic world of automotive production. Where the Thompson necessitated 21 distinct machined parts, each demanding the expertise of highly skilled craftsmen and the deployment of costly precision equipment, the M3 remarkably required only 3 machined components. Every other constituent element could be efficiently stamped, pressed, welded, or formed, utilizing the readily available automotive tools and established techniques. The weapon's receiver, for instance, employed the identical spot welding methodologies commonly utilized in the construction of automobile bodies, thereby forging joints that were inherently stronger and exhibited greater consistency than those achieved through traditional gunsmithing practices, all while concurrently eliminating countless hours of laborious hand-fitting and meticulous finishing. The very design of the magazine perfectly encapsulated the overarching manufacturing philosophy underpinning the weapon. Thompson magazines demanded meticulous machining, adherence to extremely precise tolerances, and skilled manual assembly, factors that collectively rendered each unit both expensive and time-consuming to produce. In stark contrast, the M3 magazine was ingeniously formed from basic sheet metal, employing existing press tools, with its precise dimensions dictated by the stamping dies themselves, rather than relying on the individual skill of a craftsman. The crucial feeding lips, responsible for guiding cartridges into the chamber, were ingeniously formed during the initial pressing operation, thereby entirely obviating the laborious hand filing that Thompson magazines traditionally necessitated. Consequently, the manufacturing time required per magazine plummeted dramatically, from a protracted 45 minutes to a mere 3 minutes. Even the weapon's sighting mechanisms exemplified a revolutionary approach to mass production. Thompson's sights mandated intricate machining, careful individual adjustment, and bespoke zeroing procedures during the final assembly phase. The M3, however, utilized elegantly simple stamped metal sights that were precisely drilled to their final specifications during the initial test firing, thus enabling each weapon to be rapidly and accurately zeroed without the need for expensive, individualized fitting. The front sight comprised a straightforward stamped post, while the rear sight consisted of a basic stamped aperture, a design undeniably crude in its outward appearance, yet functionally superior to more elaborate configurations that invariably demanded meticulous adjustment and frequent ongoing maintenance. The astonishing production statistics emanating from the Anderson facility fundamentally challenged every preconceived notion regarding conventional weapons manufacturing. Guide Lamp possessed the remarkable capability to churn out an impressive 1,000 M3 submachine guns per day, a stark contrast to the mere 50 Thompsons produced by traditional firearm manufacturing establishments. The setup time required to transition production from automobile headlights to submachine guns astonishingly demanded precisely 30 minutes, a testament to the unparalleled flexibility afforded by automotive-style tooling. Furthermore, the requisite worker training period dramatically decreased from a substantial 6 months for Thompson production to an expedited 2 weeks for M3 assembly, largely because the existing automotive workforce already possessed a comprehensive understanding of stamping, welding, and assembly line methodologies. The efficient utilization of raw materials represented yet another resounding triumph of intelligent design. Each M3 required a mere 5 pounds of steel, a stark comparison to the 5 pounds consumed by a Thompson, a critically important consideration at a time when America was simultaneously engaged in the monumental task of constructing the world's largest Navy, Air Force, and mechanized army. This substantial reduction in material usage was not achieved through any compromise in structural integrity. Rather, it was the direct result of astute engineering that judiciously eliminated redundant strength while meticulously preserving the weapon's essential functional integrity. Rigorous stress analysis conclusively demonstrated that the M3's stamped receiver was, in fact, inherently stronger than the Thompson's machined equivalent in crucial areas, all while weighing significantly less. The initial M3 grease gun emerged from the Anderson assembly line on May 7, 1943, marking precisely 7 months and 3 weeks since Hyde received his original commission. This weapon stood as a powerful affirmation of American industrial capability, reaching far beyond mere economic efficiencies. Frederick Sampson observed the inaugural firearm leave the production line with the deep contentment of an engineer who had triumphantly demonstrated that automotive manufacturing principles could yield military apparatus superior to conventionally produced equipment, all while incurring only a fraction of traditional costs. Nevertheless, this groundbreaking shift in industrial production was poised to collide with the entrenched resistance of military doctrine and practice. Upon the arrival of the first consignments of M3 submachine guns at training facilities during the summer of 1943, the reception was overwhelmingly frigid from both rank and file soldiers and commissioned officers. These individuals had, over decades, absorbed deeply ingrained preconceptions about the proper appearance and feel of authentic military weaponry. The stark contrast with the venerable Thompson submachine gun was profoundly jarring. Where service members anticipated the gleam of polished wood and precisely machined steel, they were confronted with crudely stamped metal components and visible spot welds, which appeared primitive in comparison. Staff Sergeant William Morrison, stationed at Fort Benning's esteemed infantry school, encapsulated the prevalent sentiment in his official training report, lamenting, "It feels cheap in your hands. Looks like something you'd find in a garage, not an armory. The boys are calling it the grease gun, and not as a compliment." This derogatory moniker, the grease gun, quickly became entrenched, serving as an unflattering descriptor that simultaneously reflected the weapon's utilitarian and unrefined aesthetic and the profound skepticism it engendered among troops who equated the perceived quality of a firearm with traditional, intricate craftsmanship. The senior command of the Army largely echoed their subordinates' aesthetic misgivings, while also harboring more profound institutional apprehensions concerning the replacement of an iconic, battle-proven weapon with what was widely perceived as a cheaply mass-produced substitute. Colonel James Harrison, who served as the chief of small arms training at the infantry school, articulated the prevailing institutional sentiment in his formal dispatch to the War Department. The M3 may function adequately, but it fails to inspire confidence in our soldiers. Military effectiveness depends not merely on mechanical function, but on the warrior's faith in his weapons. This stamped metal substitute undermines that crucial psychological element. Stay with us, and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The critiques extended beyond mere superficial appearance, delving into performance attributes that underscored fundamental divergences in design philosophy. The M3's cyclic rate of 450 rounds per minute was consistently lambasted as sluggish when juxtaposed with the Thompson's rate of over 700 rounds per minute, notwithstanding Hyde's deliberate engineering choice to enhance controllability and conserve ammunition more effectively. The weapon's wire stock was frequently dismissed as flimsy or insubstantial, despite its inherent advantages in terms of reduced weight and greater compactness compared to traditional wooden alternatives. Similarly, the straightforward safety mechanism, though robustly reliable and intuitively operable, was often characterized as crude or unsophisticated by those accustomed to more complex mechanical systems. Training officers frequently expressed frustration that soldiers necessitated extensive supplementary instruction to overcome their initial reluctance and ingrained distrust towards the M3's unconventional and aesthetically unappealing design. While range reports consistently documented that troops achieved greater accuracy with the M3, a direct result of its superior controllability, many attributed this improved precision to extraneous factors rather than acknowledging the weapon's intrinsic engineering advantages. Clearly, the psychological barrier erected by the M3's utilitarian appearance proved to be a more formidable obstacle to surmount than the technical challenges Hyde had skillfully resolved through his advanced engineering solutions. The institutional resistance against the M3 reached its zenith when a contingent of senior officers formally petitioned for the reinstatement of Thompson submachine gun production, arguing that it was essential to uphold established American military standards. Their arguments primarily revolved around critical issues such as soldier morale, the prestige associated with military weaponry, and the myriad intangible factors that collectively contribute to overall military effectiveness, extending far beyond mere mechanical functionality. The ugly gun, which had so effectively mitigated America's urgent production crisis, was now facing outright rejection by the very military establishment it was specifically engineered to serve. This created a profound crisis of confidence that threatened to derail the entire M3 program, precisely as American forces were making final preparations for the largest amphibious operations in the annals of military history. The ultimate vindication of the M3 arrived not within the controlled, artificial environment of training camps, but rather in the brutal, unforgiving crucible of actual combat. In these life-or-death scenarios, aesthetic prejudices and preconceived notions swiftly evaporated under the intense pressure of raw functionality. By the middle of 1944, American forces were unequivocally discovering that Hyde's ugly gun possessed a unique array of qualities that no amount of traditional craftsmanship could possibly replicate. Battlefield conditions, with their brutal clarity, starkly differentiated between theoretical performance metrics and practical combat effectiveness. Tank crews were notably among the first to wholeheartedly embrace the M3's revolutionary design. Their immediate enthusiasm stemmed from an intimate and often claustrophobic familiarity with the cramped, fighting compartments of their vehicles, where every single inch of available space was critically important. The Thompson's extended length of 32 inches, with its stock fully deployed, made maneuvering inside the confines of Sherman and Stuart tanks a constant and arduous struggle, particularly when crews were compelled to engage enemy infantry at close quarters during intense urban fighting. In contrast, the M3's extended length of 29. 8 inches provided crucial advantages in these restricted environments, while its innovative ability to telescope down to a mere 22. 8 inches made both storage and rapid deployment significantly more convenient and efficient. Staff Sergeant Robert Hayes, who commanded an M4 Sherman tank during the arduous Italian campaign, meticulously documented these practical distinctions in his after-action report following the fierce engagements around Monte Battaglia. He vividly recounted, "You try swinging a Thompson around inside a tank turret when Jerry infantry gets close. The grease gun fits where the Tommy won't go. Had to engage German soldiers at point-blank range yesterday. The M3 let me get my weapon up and firing while my loader was still wrestling his Thompson into position." This first-hand account powerfully illustrated the M3's superior utility in the confined spaces of armored warfare. The substantial weight differential between the two weapons proved to be equally significant during prolonged military operations. At a lean 8, 2 pounds, as compared to the Thompson's hefty 10-plus pounds, the M3 significantly reduced physical fatigue experienced by soldiers during extensive patrols and protracted engagements. Paratroopers, who bore the full burden of every ounce of equipment on their backs through hazardous combat jumps, quickly calculated that a saving of 2 pounds per weapon, when multiplied across an entire unit, translated into considerable tactical advantages. The official equipment report from the 82nd Airborne Division, following the monumental Operation Market Garden, specifically noted that M3-equipped squads possess the capacity to carry additional ammunition and vital medical supplies that Thompson-equipped units simply could not manage. The Pacific Theater of Operations served as the most profound proving ground for the M3, where the extreme environmental conditions, notorious for rendering conventional weaponry ineffective, starkly showcased the superior ingenuity embedded within Hyde's groundbreaking design. The relentless, suffocating humidity and pervasive moisture characteristic of New Guinea transformed routine weapons maintenance into an insurmountable ordeal, a challenge that units armed with the venerable Thompson submachine gun found themselves ill-equipped to conquer. The Thompson's exposed operational mechanism demanded meticulous daily cleansing to ward off the insidious creep of corrosion and prevent debilitating jams, a luxury seldom afforded during protracted jungle engagements, where the sudden, unannounced appearance of Japanese forces was a constant, harrowing threat. The visceral reality of weapons dependability, or lack thereof, in the unforgiving tropical climes, was vividly etched into the combat journal entries of Marine Corporal Anthony Ritchie, penned during his deployment on Bougainville. His raw account detailed the immediate failures. Day 2, Thompson started jamming every few rounds. Humidity gets into everything out here. A pivotal moment arrived when he salvaged a grease gun from a fallen GI. Ritchie noted its unwavering performance. "The thing kept firing no matter what I threw at it. Went 3 weeks, 800 rounds. Never cleaned it once, never jammed. Not even when I dropped it in a stream during that night patrol." This stark contrast underscored the M3's rugged resilience. That very enclosed action, initially dismissed by discerning Aberdeen officers as unsophisticated and crude, ultimately proved its decisive advantage in environments where more traditional designs faltered repeatedly. The M3's vital bolt and spring mechanisms remained hermetically sealed, impervious to the ingress of moisture, fine dirt, and various debris that invariably infiltrated Thompson mechanisms, even those subjected to diligent and painstaking maintenance. Field dispatches originating from the arduous Pacific operations consistently highlighted M3 reliability figures soaring above 95%, a stark and favorable comparison to Thompson rates, which frequently plummeted below 70% during extended periods of intense jungle warfare. We invite you to stay with us and watch the end of this video for more compelling insights. Your like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Please also take a moment to leave a comment below, sharing where you are from and your thoughts on the crucial topic discussed in this video. The M3's validation then extended to the European theater, specifically during the unforgiving winter of 1944-45. The monumental Battle of the Bulge subjected American armaments to bone-chilling extreme cold, unequivocally exposing the fundamental differences in design philosophy between conventional and innovative approaches. Sub-zero temperatures, plummeting far below freezing, were notorious for solidifying Thompson mechanisms, rendering these weapons utterly inoperable at the most critical junctures, when German forces unleashed unexpected and devastating assaults against American lines. Private First Class Michael Sullivan, serving with the 2nd Infantry Division, provided a poignant first-hand account of this brutal winter combat in a letter dispatched home. He chronicled the dire conditions. December 23rd, temperature dropped to 15 below. Jerry came at us before dawn. Johnson's Thompson froze solid. Couldn't even pull the bolt back. In stark contrast, his own M3 performed flawlessly. My grease gun kept chattering like it was summer in Georgia. That ugly gun saved our whole squad that morning. The M3's ingeniously simple blowback action, coupled with its significantly reduced number of moving components, demonstrated an inherent and profound superiority when confronted with extreme weather phenomena. While the Thompson's intricate mechanism demanded precise tolerances that were easily disrupted by the numbing cold, the M3's robust construction and streamlined operational design ensured its continuous, reliable functioning. Furthermore, the heavy bolt, which early critics had pejoratively characterized as sluggish, paradoxically delivered superior performance in sub-zero conditions by retaining sufficient kinetic momentum to cycle the action effectively, even when lighter, less substantial mechanisms failed outright. Captured German intelligence reports, painstakingly analyzed following the Ardennes offensive, specifically singled out American units equipped with the M3 as high-priority targets. This designation was a clear acknowledgment of the weapon's pronounced effectiveness in the brutal close-quarters combat endemic to winter fighting. Wehrmacht after-action reports further corroborated this, noting with a degree of grudging respect. American grease gun most dangerous in bunker-clearing operations, simple, reliable, always functional, even in extreme cold when other weapons fail. A profound psychological metamorphosis among American troops ran in perfect parallel with the weapon's tactical vindication on the battlefield. Initial, widespread skepticism regarding the M3's utilitarian appearance gradually yielded to a deep, if grudging, respect as soldiers personally discovered that the weapon's unglamorous facade concealed truly superior battlefield performance. The evocative nickname "grease gun," initially a term of mockery, underwent a remarkable evolution, transforming into an emblem of affection as troops learned to place their absolute trust in Hyde's revolutionary design philosophy. Technical Sergeant David Chen, a seasoned veteran who had endured both the grueling Italian and French campaigns, eloquently encapsulated this evolving sentiment within his unit's historical records. He recounted, "Started calling it the grease gun as a joke. Looked like something from a garage, not an armory. But after 6 months of combat, that garage tool brought more of us home than any pretty gun ever could. Function over form, that's what keeps you alive." However, just as widespread field validation was unequivocally establishing the M3's irrefutable combat superiority, a catastrophic setback befell the program from an entirely unforeseen quarter. Pervasive quality control issues began to surface in early 1945, a direct consequence of the rapid, almost frantic expansion of production capabilities, which inadvertently compromised the stringent manufacturing standards that had initially ensured the weapon's reliability. Some M3s were plagued by weak recoil springs, leading to persistent feeding problems, while others experienced alarming bolt breakage during periods of sustained firing. Critics, who had vociferously opposed the program from its inception, eagerly seized upon these failures, presenting them as irrefutable vindication of their deeply entrenched aesthetic and institutional prejudices. This burgeoning crisis threatened to dismantle everything Hyde had meticulously achieved through his superior engineering prowess and the undeniable validation garnered on the battlefield. Consequently, directives were issued to halt M3 production entirely and revert to the manufacturing of Thompson submachine guns. Despite the overwhelming and irrefutable combat evidence that overwhelmingly favored the newer design, Hyde's revolutionary weapon found itself on the precipice of potential cancellation. This bureaucratic crisis emerged precisely when its combat superiority was becoming undeniably clear, creating a pivotal juncture that would ultimately determine whether American small arms doctrine would embrace functional innovation or retreat into a traditional mindset that regrettably prioritized mere appearance over demonstrable combat effectiveness. The news that reached Hyde's Dayton office in February 1945 carried a devastating and profound irony that, in retrospect, encapsulated the entire complex saga of the M3. The final Thompson submachine gun had rolled off Savage Arms' production line, signaling the definitive end to the manufacture of America's most iconic and recognizable weapon. This cessation was not due to its technical obsolescence, but rather to an economic impossibility. After a prodigious output of 1.5 million Thompsons, the beautiful gun had, quite literally, priced itself out of existence, becoming an unfortunate casualty of the very same relentless cost pressures that had originally driven the development of Hyde's revolutionary, cost-effective design. The definitive demise of the Thompson consequently created a critical void in the military's arsenal, a lacuna that only the M3 was truly capable of filling. Nevertheless, the lingering quality control issues continued to cast a long shadow, threatening to derail and utterly destroy the program just as its strategic necessity became absolutely paramount. Hyde, working in close collaboration with Frederick Sampson, embarked upon a meticulously urgent campaign to identify and systematically eliminate the production problems that critics were so readily exploiting to undermine the entire project and discredit its fundamental merits. The subsequent comprehensive investigation conclusively revealed that the rapid and often uncontrolled expansion of manufacturing facilities had inadvertently compromised the precise steel specifications and the critical spring tensions that were absolutely essential for the weapon's inherent reliability. The ultimate solution remarkably embodied the very same elegant engineering philosophy that had originally given birth to the M3, the application of elegant simplicity to complex and multifaceted problems. By implementing better, more rigorously controlled steel specifications, the pervasive bolt breakage issues were effectively eliminated, while a careful revision of spring tension successfully resolved the feeding problems that had plagued some units, thus restoring the M3 to its intended unwavering reliability. The persistent issues that had troubled certain military components were finally addressed. The refined M3A1, launched in December 1944, meticulously tackled every legitimate grievance, while steadfastly preserving the economic and manufacturing advantages that facilitated its widespread production. The most conspicuous alteration involved replacing the delicate cocking handle with a straightforward finger aperture in the bolt, thereby eliminating the element most susceptible to damage during operational handling. A more robust rear sight significantly enhanced its potential for accuracy, yet remained amenable to production methods derived from the automotive industry. Crucially, stringent quality control measures were implemented, effectively eradicating the inconsistent manufacturing standards that had previously generated reliability shortcomings in various production batches. By the cessation of hostilities, the quantitative affirmation of Hyde's methodological genius was overwhelmingly evident and irrefutable. The cumulative output of M3 units reached an impressive 66,694, translating into fiscal efficiencies exceeding $150 million when juxtaposed with the cost of producing an equivalent number of Thompson submachine guns. Its reliability quotient in terminal evaluations soared to an exceptional 99.7%, even surpassing Hyde's most optimistic forecasts. This firearm, initially dismissed as rudimentary and unreliable, had unequivocally demonstrated greater dependability than any other submachine gun in the annals of American military history. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. However, the M3's ultimate vindication transpired during the Korean War, a theater where extreme frozen conditions rendered most armaments inoperable, thus laying bare the intrinsic superiority of Hyde's foundational design philosophy. This conflict served as a conclusive examination of the enduring debate between function and form that had enveloped the weapon since its inception. As the brutal weather meticulously stripped away all superficial aesthetic considerations to reveal its unadulterated mechanical effectiveness. Private Bob Shine, serving with the 2nd Infantry Division, personally experienced the M3's preeminence in winter operations during the arduous retreat from Seoul in January 1951. His unit found itself confronting Chinese forces amidst profoundly sub-zero temperatures, circumstances that elevated weapon dependability from a mere preference to an absolute matter of survival. "I despised that gun when it was issued to me at Fort Lewis," Shine later recounted. "It looked like absolute junk compared to the Thompsons the guys carried in the movies. But when we engaged those Chinese positions at Wonju, my grease gun discharged every single round without fail. My comrade next to me, armed with a Thompson, suffered a jam after just 10 shots. That unsightly firearm truly brought me home. Captured after-action reports from the Chinese People's Volunteer Army during the Spring Offensive distinctly highlighted American soldiers equipped with M3s, acknowledging their formidable efficacy in the close-quarters engagements that characterized a significant portion of the Korean conflict. Communist intelligence assessments specifically noted the weapon's steadfast reliability, even in conditions that routinely incapacitated other small arms, consequently designating M3-equipped units as priority threats during their infantry assaults. The profound transformation in American military sentiment mirrored the weapon's combat-proven affirmation. What had initially manifested as institutional derision gradually evolved into profound professional respect, as officers who had initially disparaged the M3's appearance came to appreciate its undeniable utility on the battlefield. By 1953, even the most traditionalist voices within the military establishment conceded that Hyde's ugly gun had unequivocally demonstrated superior reliability compared to the aesthetically pleasing Thompson it had superseded. The fundamental principle that Hyde had forged through his exceptional engineering prowess was thus enshrined as a core doctrine that would profoundly shape American military acquisition strategies for many decades. Function trumps form. A good enough design, correctly engineered, surpasses a perfect one that is poorly executed. True weapon selection is dictated by effectiveness, not elegance. These concepts, which were considered revolutionary when Hyde first articulated them, progressively matured into accepted wisdom, guiding the development of everything from individual small arms to vast, complex weapon systems. George Hyde passed away in 1963, his pioneering design still actively serving within the American military, having outlasted both the critics who had dismissed it and the aesthetic biases that had initially hindered its adoption. The M3 faithfully served through the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and beyond, amassing an operational record that unequivocally vindicated every facet of Hyde's design philosophy, while powerfully demonstrating the enduring merit of engineering pragmatism over entrenched institutional traditionalism. The weapon's profound legacy extended far beyond its direct battlefield utility, encompassing a foundational shift in American strategic thinking regarding military efficacy. The grease gun incontrovertibly proved that genuine innovation often presents itself as aesthetically unappealing to perceptions honed by conventional beauty, that groundbreaking solutions frequently defy established expectations, and that authentic military effectiveness emanates from armaments that operate flawlessly when all other systems falter, rather than from weapons that merely project grandeur during peacetime demonstrations. The concluding chapter of the M3's narrative unveiled a profound truth about the essence of American character and its inherent capabilities. The nation that had initially spurned Hyde's design because of its unrefined appearance ultimately embraced it because it performed dependably. The visual prejudices that had almost doomed the program eventually yielded to a pragmatic acknowledgement of its superior engineering. The ugly gun that had been deemed unworthy of American soldiers ascended to become the most reliable submachine gun in their entire inventory. For the countless GIs who deployed the M3 across 3 major conflicts, the firearm's outward appearance faded into insignificance when contrasted with its unwavering dependability. They came to understand that true beauty in martial equipment does not reside in polished surfaces or traditional craftsmanship. Instead, it is found in consistent, unfailing operation when lives hang precariously in the balance. The grease gun's quintessential utilitarian design epitomized the pinnacle of American inventiveness. The remarkable ability to divest itself of all superfluous elements while meticulously preserving everything that truly matters. Ultimately, George Hyde's ugly gun imparted to America the profound insight that the most elegant solution is invariably the one that functions flawlessly when all other systems fail. The core principle he established through meticulous design and rigorous battlefield substantiation was integrated as a fundamental element of U.S. military policy. Utility, rather than aesthetics, defines genuine value. The M3 grease gun demonstrated that occasionally the most transformative endeavor involves crafting an item sufficiently straightforward to perform perfectly and consistently during critical moments.